Tonight, a shot of adrenaline for the financial markets. Central banks around the world cut interest rates, but even that can't stop the slide on Wall Street. I'm Katie Couric. Also tonight, you heard what they said.
It's my proposal. It's not Senator Obama's proposal.
I am cutting more than I'm spending.
We'll have a reality check and a different perspective on the candidates. What do you think is the best and the worst thing that has ever happened to this country? The latest installment of our special series, Presidential Questions.
This is the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric.
Good evening, everyone. The outlook for the world economy is not good, not according to a new report today from the International Monetary Fund. It's predicting a major slowdown and here in the United States, an outright recession. To try to boost the economy, central banks around the world cut interest rates today, including a half-point cut by the Fed. But it didn't reassure investors. The Dow lost another 189 points. Here's Anthony Mason.
Another Wall Street rally failed and stocks tumbled for the sixth straight day, despite an emergency rate cut by the Fed.
No confidence. There's just no confidence out there.
In an extraordinary global move, the Fed, the European Central Bank, and the central banks of England, Canada, Switzerland, and Sweden all slashed interest rates 0.5%. The international rate cut was announced at 7 a.m. after overseas markets had plunged again. Japan's Nikkei dropping 9%, Hong Kong 8%, Moscow fell 14% in the first half hour before being shut down till Friday.
The financial institutions are having an anxiety attack.
Economist Stuart Hoffman says the Fed's cutting rates to restore confidence.
In and of itself, it wouldn't be enough. But it's part of a lot of stuff that the Fed has thrown on the wall to see what sticks.
As the credit markets remained frozen, Treasury Secretary Paulson urged patience while the rescue package is implemented.
Because the turmoil will not end quickly and significant challenges remain ahead.
Recession worries are growing. 3 out of 4 major retailers reported disappointing September sales as more and more shoppers watch their wallets.
We have definitely cut down.
At this Los Angeles store, the owner says business is off 50%.
It is going down a lot. Lots of people are saving money. They're trying not to spend money.
I think it's going to be a tough and, in many cases, profitless holiday for a lot of retailers.
Treasury Secretary Paulson said today it's still too early to look for encouraging signs in the credit markets. And as for the economy, he refused to predict when there might be a recovery. Katie?
Anthony Mason. Anthony, thank you. And actually, we did find at least one hopeful sign, a burst of activity in the housing market. America's realtors said today the number of home sellers who have accepted offers from buyers is up more than 7%. Meanwhile, there are a lot of Americans who'd like to sell their homes because they can't afford to live in them anymore. With home prices sliding, 1 out of 3 Americans who purchased a home in the past 5 years owes more on the mortgage than the house is now worth. In fact, 1 out of every 6 American homeowners is in that position. Here's Cynthia Bowers.
Keith McEachern never dreamed he'd have to take a second job driving a school bus. But that was before the longtime music teacher's adjustable rate mortgage reset and his payment jumped from $1,100 to $1,500 a month.
I just feel like a slave really now because every dollar I make is to pay the mortgage.
He's already 2 months behind, and like 12 million other Americans, he now owes more on his house than it's worth.
Many nights I've been up, can't sleep, walking around, thinking what I'm going to do.
He's hoping he's one of thousands who will benefit from a settlement announced this week by Countrywide, which would force the mortgage giant to readjust payments to more affordable rates.
We now have a model program in the settlement with Countrywide, and we want other lenders to start adopting that program.
But in the meantime, what should a homeowner do if they owe more than their house is worth?
Start a dialogue with your lender. That is the most important thing.
If that doesn't work, experts say, ask a HUD-certified counselor to work as a mediator between you and your bank. And if you can afford to increase your payments, even $100 a month can reduce the life of the loan by years. Keith McEachern says even if he gets mortgage relief, he is still planning on taking a third job. to make sure his mortgage mess doesn't end on a sour note. Cynthia Bowers, CBS News, Chicago.
And one more business note. The Fed agreed today to lend more money to AIG, the struggling insurance giant. The new loan is for about $38 billion, bringing the total the Fed is lending AIG to nearly $123 billion. Now turning to the presidential campaign. After their second debate, the candidates were back on the campaign trail today. Democrat Barack Obama traveled to a state that traditionally votes Republican. Dean Reynolds is covering the Obama campaign, and Dean, the senator, believes he did well last night.
That's right, Katie. Good evening. And the reviews have been pretty good, and he's been enjoying them. But he's also been thinking about reassuring the voters with a message of optimism in the face of economic anxiety.
There is no reason that we can't steer ourselves out of this crisis and make this century another American century.
Now, he made those remarks in Indiana, a state that has not gone Democratic in a presidential election since 1964, but it's a state where Barack Obama is outspending John McCain now 6-1. And it's one of several usually reliable Republican states that Obama is trying to lay claim to. He was in North Carolina and Virginia last week. Both states George Bush won in 2000 and 2004, but this is 2008. Obama has a money advantage, and he's pressing it at every turn. Katie?
Dean Reynolds. Dean, thank you. Meanwhile, the Republican ticket was back in attack mode today. Chip Reed is in Strongsville, Ohio. And Chip, I guess you might call it a tag team event.
That's right, Katie. You have John McCain and Sarah Palin ganging up on Barack Obama. In fact, that's a group of people mobbing Sarah Palin right now. Now, they did talk about the economy, too, both here in Ohio and in Pennsylvania earlier. But their main focus is attacking Barack Obama, arguing that he does not have the judgment or experience to be president.
If he's such a defender of the middle class, why did he vote to raise their taxes? Whatever happened? Whatever happened to the tax relief he promised them when he was a candidate for the Senate? And why should middle-class Americans trust him to keep promises that he's already broken?
Now, Sarah Palin described Obama as somebody just trying to talk his way into the White House, and even Cindy McCain, John McCain's wife, jumped into the fray today, sharply accusing Obama of abandoning the troops by voting against funding for the war in Iraq. Katie?
All right, Chip Reed in Strongsville, Ohio tonight. Thank you. We want to go back now to last night's debate for a moment because the candidates said a few things we thought needed a reality check. Here's Wyatt Andrews.
The campaign calls it a bold new program aimed directly at homeowners. John McCain's proposal to have the government buy and refinance shaky mortgages.
To immediately buy up the bad home loan mortgages in America and renegotiate at the new value of those homes.
McCain then claimed this was his idea and no one else's.
And it's my proposal. It's not Senator Obama's proposal. It's not President Bush's proposal.
That claim is exaggerated. Similar authority was granted in last week's bailout bill, and Senator Obama proposed a version of the same idea 2 weeks ago.
We should consider giving the government the authority to purchase mortgages directly instead of simply purchasing mortgage-backed securities.
Paying for all of those bad loans, though, is a problem, and McCain admitted it.
Is it expensive? Yes.
So it was hard to square that admission with McCain's promise to put the clamps on federal spending.
We'll just have to have across-the-board freeze.
Obama made his own stunning claim on spending, that all of his promises on energy, health care, and education are paid for with his budget cuts.
Actually, I am cutting more than I'm spending, so that it will be a net spending cut.
The fact is, Obama's promises will increase the deficit. The Nonpartisan Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget says Obama hikes the deficit by $281 billion in 4 years. McCain is also a big spender, $215 billion in the rest. But the biggest reality check from last night's debate is how little this fiscal crisis has changed these candidates. The government has just assumed around $1 trillion in new liabilities, and neither candidate admits to any real change in plans. Katie?
Wyatt Andrews in Washington tonight. Wyatt, thank you. And coming up next, presidential questions. Who are the 3 people, all alive, you would most like to have dinner with? As the election approaches, we're trying to give you more insight into the men who want to be president. We ask them about matters that go beyond the news of the day for our special series, Presidential Questions, Character, Leadership, and the Candidates. What do you think is the best and the worst thing that has ever happened to this country?
Well, that's an excellent question. Obviously, our founding was the best thing that ever happened to our country because there was a unique collection of the most wise and informed and incredible individuals that joined together to found our nation and create a document that is still a model to the rest of the world. Maybe the worst thing that happened to America is, in modern times, probably is the Great Depression. It affected probably a greater percentage of our population than any other economic or other impact that we experienced. I mean, literally half of our population, or 40%, whatever it was, huge numbers that are incomprehensible, were out of work, and people literally starved in America, and that we can't ever repeat that.
The best thing that ever happened to this, in this country was its founding fathers and the starting premise of America. You know, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That idea just kept on pushing through. Throughout the centuries, through a civil war, through civil rights, through women's rights, it became the North Star for people, not just in America, but all around the world. And I think the worst probably would have to be slavery in this country, although the treatment of Native Americans oftentimes showed great cruelty. But slavery is a stain on this country. Fortunately, we had people like Abraham Lincoln and Harriet Tubman and Dr. King and so many who were able to battle through that legacy, and we're still wrestling with it, but it's one where I think all of us have to feel more optimistic about the direction of this country.
Who are the 3 people who are alive you would most like to have dinner with, other than me?
I would love to have dinner with Nelson Mandela before he passes away. Obviously, he's getting on in years. The last time I saw him, he was very sharp, but he was having hearing problems and he's getting frail. Sitting down with him is something that I would enjoy doing. Somebody who I always love having a conversation with is Warren Buffett, who I talk to fairly frequently. We've become good friends. He's a good economic advisor of mine, and whenever I'm with him, what I'm always struck by is how much he enjoys what he's doing and how unaffected he's been by his success. I mean, he's just a plain-spoken, funny. He's like your favorite uncle, except worth $56 billion and really smart. So he's somebody I enjoy spending time with. The third person that I think I'd like to spend time with, well, this is my family, but I'd like to spend some time with my grandmother, who I've only seen once over the last 19 months. And she's been the rock of my family. She worked very hard all her life and made a lot of sacrifices on my behalf. And she can't travel. She's got osteoporosis that's very bad. She is as sharp as they come. She explained to me the other day, the problem with getting old is you're the same person, just your body's falling apart, and it's very frustrating, and that's how she feels. And so spending some time with her is something that is going to be a priority after this election's over.
I would think David Petraeus, General David Petraeus, is one of them. I have appreciated his leadership and his ability to inspire the young Americans, men and women who serve under him. I find him a fascinating individual. Obviously, I think that Meg Whitman, who I admire enormously, started out with 5 employees 12 years ago. Now, 1.5 million people make a living off eBay. She understands the American dream for young women in America as well as all Americans. And of course, being a real sports nut, I would consider it a great pleasure to have dinner with any major league football player, baseball player. Right now springs to mind Michael Phelps. Our Olympic champion. He's inspired America and a lot of young Americans to do what he's done. There's a young man who grew up here in Arizona and moved to New Mexico. He just won a gold medal in wrestling in the Olympics for the first time in 16 years. And his name, as I recall, is Henry Suhado, young man, child of illegal immigrants, who became an Olympic champion. I'd love to have dinner with him. By the way, I'd also like to have dinner with our 400-meter relay team who dropped the baton, and tell them that we still love them.
And tomorrow night, more about the candidates. We'll tell you how you would do under their health care plans in our series, Where They Stand. The Supreme Court waded into choppy waters today. David Martin reports it heard arguments in a case that pits the safety of whales against national security.
It's a head-on collision between whales and the U.S. Navy, and it brought America's top admirals to the Supreme Court, asking to throw out a ruling that restricts their use of sonar during training. The case is centered off the California coast, where the Navy practices finding enemy submarines. Ships send out a sound wave looking for the silent subs. Here's what it sounds like to humans. But to whales, that sound can cause disorientation and even death. 8 years ago, 15 whales beached and 8 died in the Bahamas after an anti-submarine exercise.
The sound intensity produced by sonar is 2,000 times louder than a jet engine.
When the Navy said tens of thousands of marine mammals could be injured off California, environmentalists sued, and a federal court ordered the Navy to limit its sonar use. Today at the Supreme Court, Gregory Garr argued for the Navy that in the middle of 2 wars, a federal judge can't play commander-in-chief and, quote, interfere with critical training exercises.
The case will likely be decided this spring. And as Chief Justice Roberts put it, it will have to balance potential harm to marine mammals against the potential a North Korean submarine might sneak up on Pearl Harbor. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
And coming up next, the little bank that could. Banks in this country have a real image problem right now. So far this year, 13 have failed, a breach of trust with the people they serve. In Vermont, Michelle Miller found a reminder of how banks used to be, and some still are.
Every morning, Mark Young unlocks a door in his house and takes a step back in time. In places like Orwell, Vermont, the president of the bank can still live in a house attached to the financial center of town. It's the very same bank his grandfather ran some 100 years ago.
If you're on Main Street in Orwell, Vermont, you have an obligation to help folks.
60, 75.
Founded in 1832. Things move at a more measured pace here, but with $35 million in assets and notes on 400 mortgages, it's still 20% down on every loan and no reselling or exotic lending schemes.
We don't make risky loans.
Important when nationwide community banks provide 35% of new capital to small businesses.
We're in the 5th generation.
And like all those generations before him, Young puts his 5,500 customers through tough financial screening, but also the character test.
And you're going to have to sign the bottom of that for me. It's the interaction with that customer that, with me anyway, scores as heavily as the credit score.
Got some finished floors going in upstairs now.
Take David Crane, who's building his own home on his own land. As a young self-employed plumber, the big banks rejected him.
This is your American dream.
It is. It made it doable by going to a smaller institution where somebody took time with you personally and understood what your dream was.
Young doesn't presume to have all the answers, but wonders if Wall Street would be in this situation if it had listened to what his father always used to say.
If you can pay the customers a good rate of interest, if you can help your customers and have some money left at the end of the year, what's better than that?
A common sense approach for uncommon economic times. Michelle Miller, CBS News, Orwell, Vermont.
And that is the CBS Evening News. I'm Katie Couric. Thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night.